Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. We will go over in time if that's okay with everybody. So,
I'm going to have to leave at 12:30 anyhow. We've got an appointment later.
well, you have to bring
Diana.
donuts. You have to bring donuts next time, Diana.
Okay.
And I might have to leave it at 1, but you do what you got to do.
Yeah. So we're going to go to 1:30. It's 11 o'clock now. And we'll make out all right, hopefully. Sorry. Very sorry for the inconvenience.
From the mic.
So anyway, for those who haven't been with me before, I think there's a couple, 3. When we build a painting in watercolor or any other type of painting, you're going to handle large mass areas first, 9 times out of 10. And then you're going to work from background to foreground 9 times out of 10. There's always an exception. And there's going to be an exception in this particular painting. And you're working your colors from lighter values to darker values. And finally, you're working your colors more intense at the beginning, in other words, more pure colored.
Excuse me, Dale, I'm getting feedback. I wonder if you need to mute the computer for the phone mic to work better.
Okay.
Let's try that. I was getting it too, so.
Hold on.
It's like echoey.
Yeah, I know. I'm just getting it off of Dale's phone too.
We have brand new phones on top of it, so.
Okay, can you hear him anymore?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no more backseat. Woo.
Okay, good. And the last thing I said, you're going to be working your colors more intense at the beginning because you can't get them any more intense later on unless you're putting the same color on the same color. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to start off with the building in this particular case. I'm going to work a little bit backwards from what I normally do. And the colors we're using, and if you have any questions, please ask. The colors we're using is ultramarine blue, sap green, yellow medium, burnt sienna, and the brown madder. And the brown madder and the yellow make a beautiful red, orange, and yellow orange, depending on the combination. The brown madder I've been using as a substitute for alizarin crimson. I don't use that anymore because most of the alizarins, unless it states it is permanent, is a fugitive color, which means it fades faster. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to start off with the building this time. So I'm going to take a little bit of the sap green, and since it is a light colored building, it's going to reflect the colors around it quite a bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of the sap green and the yellow and water it down a whole lot because the building, I don't want to paint that warm gray. And I'm going to add just a little bit of one color or another here, just a little bit. And I'm going to kind of just fuzz it in, and I'm going to add a little bit of the brown oxide to it, or the burnt sienna. And I'm going to add just a little bit of color. This will come off as a lighter value house, but not a gray house. Actually, it's kind of a warm gray. It will actually look like a white house by the time I'm done, because you'll find out that the watercolor will dry lighter as time goes on. So I'm going to come to the foreground. Again, it's backwards from what I'm always telling everybody. And I'm going to take the sap green along with that yellow. And I got a lot of water in with this, as you can tell. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint different values, different colors into the foreground to simulate that dry grass. This wasn't too far from our cabin up here where we're living now. And I'm going to leave spots of white paper here and there. While I'm talking, I'm kind of allowing things to dry because timing in watercolor is everything. And if I leave things dry just a little bit, when I paint up against it, it won't seep in. So this may have a little bit too much color on it, on the house. And I'm gonna just simply take a paper towel and I'm gonna remove just a little bit of it here and there, not too much. That's about it. And I'm gonna go into the background at this point. So I'm gonna start off with the left-hand side and then move across. And then I will stop so that you can then repeat the same thing, and I'll also tell you what I just did to remind you. So I'm taking the sap green, the ultramarine blue, and the burnt sienna or the brown oxide, just a little bit. And I'm going to start off over here very quickly. And I'm dry brushing this on. I'm doing wet pigment on dry paper. I'm going to add a little bit more ultramarine blue and a little bit more of the burnt sienna. And I'm going to add that right in there. And I'm going to go right up against the house right here, just a little bit. And I'm going to come across by adding the yellow. And you notice I don't rinse my brush out too often, but I'm going to take the yellow and the brown matter, and I'm going to come up into this area here and allow it to meld into what I already have. And I'm going to take my spray bottle. You can take the toothbrush with water. I'll be demonstrating both. And as I come across, I'm going to add a little bit more brown matter to the yellow, a little bit more yellow here. And I'm just going to dry brush this up into here because we're handling all the large masses as much as we can. And I'm going to go right up against the building now. That should hold its own line here quite a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off the palette out here. I want a little bit more intensity to the next passage. So I'm taking the brown matter and the yellow. And occasionally I'll look at the photograph. And if I always tell my students, don't become a slave to the photograph. You're painting a painting, you're not painting the photograph. Question, go ahead.
You shift everything a little to the left so we can see your palette. I can see where you're mixing, but I can't see the paints.
Okay, that's you, Denise?
That's it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I'm adding a little bit more of the brown matter, and I'm going to put it right in here on top of this. While it's wet, it will diffuse. So I'm working quite rapidly, and I'm trying to give a variety of color here at the same time. And I'm going to come up into here, and I'm going to add a lot more yellow, more than what's in the photograph. One of the things about nature is that you can alter things to a certain extent. Nature is very forgiving. And while this is wet up in here, I'm going to take my toothbrush and I'm going to take the pure yellow here and I'm going to spritz it up in here a lot over here like this and a little bit down in here. And that will kind of soften itself into what we've already done. And I'm going to take the side of the brush and I'm going to dry brush this in. And then I'm going to go back to the green and I'm going to mix it right in with what I had just mixed up because that will automatically gray the green. Okay. Anything with red in it and yellow will gray the green, or anything with red. And I need to soften this just a little bit. I want that to kind of bleed in. And I'm going to bring it right up into here a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit more blue. And I'm always looking at every 3, 5, 6, 7 brush strokes to change color or temperature or value or intensity so that it's not the same all the way across. I can always go darker, but it's a little bit more difficult to go lighter. I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow-green here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take my smaller brush And I'm going to tease this right into the house right here, because this is still wet over here. Now, if you end up with different combinations of color, that's fine. It's not really a problem. Because like I said, nature is very forgiving. And here I'm just slowing it down a little bit, but usually the wash on the first pass is very quick. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the toothbrush with pure yellow in it again. And I'm going to hit down in this area just to lighten it up. And a little bit over here, I'm going to add some of that same color because I don't want this down here to be isolated by itself. So going back to the very beginning, I lightly added the yellow medium and the sap green into the house. Now, it looks like there's almost nothing here. Well, there is a lot there, more so than what you think. And then I came over here with the sap green, ultramarine blue, and I add a little bit of burnt sienna to it to slightly gray it down. And I started painting these greens up in here. And I went to different combinations of the yellow medium and the brown matter with a little bit of burnt sienna in it here. And then I went more of just the yellow and the brown matter up in here, pure yellow here. And then I came down and I grade this a little bit more. The reason why I grade this more over here than this is that we read a painting from left to right, and I don't want too much intensity over here. So I darken that in quite a bit. The foreground, which I did right after the house, I ended up doing yellow light and the sap green, and I'll go back and add to that later on. But right now, that's what I want you to do. Now, for those, again, who haven't been with me before on Zoom, I'm going to go and I'm going to call your name out. I want you to hold your painting up once you're done and it's dry. I don't want it sliding down the paper. Show me what you got so I can evaluate what you need to do, if anything. And please ask questions.
Nope.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Here.
Yeah, I see it. Good. All right. That's a good start.
I was painting right along with you.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Natalie, and
Natalie.
this is my first ever watercolor, so don't expect anything spectacular.
Well, this is a start, as I've told people in all my workshops, you have to start someplace, and that's not bad.
Okay.
So you have to have patience with yourself, and you learn by your mistakes. As I've always told my students, I have a landfill someplace with my mistakes. But I consider myself a student also because I don't stop learning. I try to learn new things, different things. So everybody is a student, just on different levels. Natalie, are you living in Kentucky?
No, we're in the burbs outside of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
It isn't Natalie, it's,
I forgot who lived in. Where do you live in the burbs outside of Chicago?
We're in Barrington.
Oh, okay. I used to teach in Lake Zurich.
Okay, yeah, we're close to that.
Yeah.
Do you still teach in Lake Zurich?
No, I'm living in northern Wisconsin now, way up by the Michigan border.
Okay.
Pretty
Dale,
up there.
it's Diana, if you want to look.
Where are we at
Dale?
here? Oh, there you are. I don't, okay, go ahead. All right, that's fine. When you're painting again, Diana, try to work a little bit faster and a little bit more fluid because I'm seeing a lot of brush strokes up in this area.
Okay. I
think
haven't
I'm
done any
doing-
watercolor since we stopped in whenever it was, May or June.
Yeah, I forgot when it
it was
was.
June.
We were in the process of packing a million
Right.
boxes.
I've been working on my oil painting that I'm still working on.
Good.
So are your
Except
brush
for-
strokes more dabbing rather than stroking? I think mine's getting kind of muddy is the way I would describe it.
Well, from what I saw, yours is not muddy. It's not unclean color, but you don't
Mhm.
want to dab. Watch how I use the brush back and forth very quickly,
Mhm.
and try to allow the color to meld together as I move, so that wet pigment will meld with other wet pigment.
Okay.
It takes a little bit of time to get the idea of how to handle the watercolor. You're seeing a lot of light spots up here. A lot of it will disappear as I move through it, but some of it will stay with us. Who is the young lady who lives in Kentucky
Or has a Kentucky area
or has
code?
a Kentucky area code?
Louisville?
Oh, that's
Nobody?
me, Carolyn. I don't
Oh.
live in Kentucky, but I have a Kentucky area code.
Okay,
I used to live in Louisville.
okay. Louisville's pretty.
Yeah, it is pretty. Yeah.
Our niece and nephew and little grandniece and nephews live down there.
Ah,
And we got our dog, Miss Poppy, just like 20 minutes north of Louisville in Indiana. So-
Georgetown.
yeah.
All right, who's next?
Whoever is willing to be next. Janet, how are you doing? Not yet, okay. Julie, how are you doing?
Okay, let me pin you. So
Okay, good. You could have been a little bit more intense on the yellow and the yellow-orange and the red-orange, but don't do it now. Nice to see you back again. And Rachel, how are you
I think
doing?
mine's dry.
Okay,
A little
good.
watery.
All right, that's fine. Where are you from, Rachel?
I'm from Ohio, but just moved to Chicago.
It took you to Chicago, huh?
is she?
Yep,
Where in Chicago do you live? Downtown or?
Lakeview.
Oh, Lakeview,
Yep.
okay. That's north of Chicago quite a bit, isn't it?
No, it's like just south of Wrigleyville.
Yeah, that's
Right.
where
Oh, okay.
Mary Bunker lives in Lakeview.
All right.
I have a-
Now I know where you're at.
Whose phone number was wrong, Jim?
Who is it who lives in Lakeview? I live in East Lakeview.
That's me,
I'm sorry, who's me?
Rachel.
Rachel.
We don't have a number for you, Julie, for some reason. Telephone number.
You want it now?
Wait a minute, do you have a pen there?
I don't have a pen.
I'll
Hang
email
on.
it to you.
Okay, why don't you do that?
Yeah, email it to me, it would be fine.
And then you said you had a wrong phone number for somebody.
And I had a wrong phone number and I can't remember who it was now. I should have marked it down. I was calling you last night from sitting out in our vehicle because in a log cabin, you don't get the best reception, the best all the time.
The logs are too dense.
We hung up on Dale. We thought it was a robocall.
I know. Denise, how are you doing?
Almost overdoing it. Yeah. Tell me if you can see it.
All right. Spray a little bit of the water on it with the,
Oh, yeah. I haven't done that
just
yet.
to soften it and give it a little bit of texture.
Yeah, and I haven't done the splashing either. Okay. Water, where are you?
Because lots of times I will use the spray thing here. What I did with this spray thing is I put a needle in the end and I wiggled it around so that it doesn't spray
Evenly. In a
evenly.
jet stream?
Yeah, because then it spits more.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
So
gonna lighten up.
you get a little bit of variety. The other thing that I use with paint and water is the toothbrush.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's always a hard bristle, never a soft or a medium, which is not going to be given to you by the dentist, obviously. And I got this in the mail. It's one of those travel brushes you stick together like this,
Oh, I thought we got that at the dollar store.
or the dollar store. I forgot where we got it. But it's something that I use to put paint on or water on. I lift. I'll be doing lifting in this painting. But have I got everybody so far? Anybody else?
Janet.
Janet. Janet? Are
I'm
you
calling
behind
you
again?
out, Janet.
That's Janet's middle name is behind. Okay, that's fine. Again, you work your colors a little bit more intense, less water. The less water you use, the more intense the color is going to be. I know you took notes at the workshop. Okay.
I actually didn't a few times.
I know, but still,
Right.
I won't be able to take pictures of this, so you're going to have to pull them. So I'm going to put my finger here as a guide. Okay. Usually we take pictures individually so that you're getting each stage in the video that we're going to send you. That's one thing different than that we do than other Zoom classes don't do is we send a video out that you have to use and finish up the painting or start it over.
With my iPad.
But this is to be, I think you keep it almost as long as you can for, I forgot what it is now, but if you finish the painting, you can please email it to me and I can critique it. If you start it over, email that to me and I'll critique it. But please send it to me so I can give you some guidance on that. Okay. We're going to start over. And what I want to do is I want to take a little bit of this. You can see a little bit of the paint came off, not too much.
Here.
But it's fairly dry. Could be a little bit drier, but I'm going to start off on the house, work down the grass, and then I'm going to stop.
Here, this might be-
So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to my smaller brushes at this point, which is a rare thing, but I am going to add some dark contrast around the house to pull the house out. So I'm going to take the ultramarine blue and the little bit of the yellow, and then some of the burnt sienna or the brown madder, a little bit more blue. And then I'm going to add a certain amount of water to it. And I have puddles of color that I will use occasionally as backup for mixing more color. So I'm going to follow the roof line of the building here just for a moment. And I'm going to take the brush, kind of dry it off a little bit, and I'm going to drag it around on its side. So I use the side of the brush a lot. And I take a little bit more of that, adding a little bit of the orange to it. And I'm going to go off on the other side here. And I'm dragging the brush around, dry brushing, for the fact that I am not covering everything I originally did. And I'll bring this up to the camera closer so you can see it. You can see I'm not covering everything that I previously put down. I never do, for the most part. But if you have any questions while I'm painting, please ask.
What was the first mix?
The first mix was the ultramarine blue and the sap green with a little bit of the
Okay.
burnt sienna.
Okay.
What brush are you using?
I'm using my number 4 or 5 round.
Thank you.
And this here is another brush here, and this is a number 8. And there's a big difference in size, but not in number. So it's something that you kind of get used to after a while, because every series is a little bit different. So I'm adding some darker darks within what I just put down so that you can see hopefully some of those darker darks, and they'll dissipate within the painting itself, but it'll remain soft. So I'm going to go to the foundation of the house at this point. And by the way, I am using indigo paper, which has a great texture tooth to it. And now I'm going to go into the little bit of the porch at this point. I want to kind of find out where my darker darks are at, or beginning of the darker darks. I know I'm toying around with little things, but I find out that these type of things are important at this point in this type of painting. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up with my cat tongue, and I'm going to clean off my palette at this point because I don't want my color getting muddy. And I'm going to go up the left-hand side of the painting here. And I'm going to take the ultramarine blue, some of the sap green, and a little bit of the brown matter. And I'm going to start at the bottom where we have our darker dark because it's receiving less light. And again, I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to keep on remixing some of this. And I'm just dragging the brush on its side so that I'm picking up the texture of the paper in here. So I'm going to again hold this up to the camera so that you can see what's happening. And I just added a little bit of that yellow orange into it. But it's to design what's going on in the photograph as far as values go, because the values are what's going to make this painting work. So again, I'm cross-mixing colors of the ultramarine blue. And now I've got it watered down quite a bit, and I'm going to drag this up in here like so. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt sienna in that mixture because it's going to get warmer as it goes up. And burnt sienna is a brownish color. It's a grayed down red orange. And then I'm going to use a lot of water in here. And I'm going to drag some of that color right on up into the trees itself. I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow and brown matter to this at the same time. So again, I'm just looking at patterns. I am not looking at the subject matter, because where I put the tree trunks and so forth, it's going to work with the pattern. And then I'm going to take and make a yellow orange here that's slightly grayed down. And I'm going to drag this out into the building here a little bit. Again, a lot of dry brushing in this particular photograph. And then I'm going to take the toothbrush, a little bit more yellow in that same mixture, and I'm going to hit it right in here. So I stopped it with the transition up into over here because I'll deal with that later. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sap green with that mixture I just put up here, and I'm going to work the ground down here. I need a little bit of color coming down into the ground that's up here because I don't want the ground being a totally foreign color. I'm going to add a little bit more of the sap green. And I will tell you, for those people that started brand new today, that you haven't had watercolor, a lot of it before, don't be intimidated. Because there's people that haven't done a lot before and they're looking at it in the same way you are. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. I'm going to soften some of this over here. And I'm just dragging this kind of in the, I always paint in the direction in which things move. And in this particular case, I'm painting the grass in the way that it moves also. So it's kind of haphazardly. I'm going to add a few darks down in here. like so. And I'm going to stop. Now, what I did is I started over here by adding some darker, this is kind of a brownish green here on this side to go with this color. It's grayed down. And then I traveled across the bottom of the foundation and into the porch area back here. And then up here, I used the sap green, ultramarine blue, and a little bit of the burnt sienna or the brown oxide that I'm using. And then I came up and around and I took the red orange and I grayed it down with the green and I got this so that it just kind of moves across. And then I'll come down here with the sap green and the yellow medium with a little bit of the brown in it as I move across this way. Now, the last thing I do want to put down is I want to take a little bit of this color with the green and I'm going to give this a little bit of texture down here while it's wet. And I want this softer over here. It's drier over here, so you'll be able to see the texture. And I'm just barely touching the ends of the toothbrush. And
We
this will
can't
give
see
us-
the bottom of the painting.
So you're getting texture
Okay,
that's kind of spitting like so.
And what
Thank
color
you.
was that?
Pardon?
What color was that you
That
were
was the
shading in?
that was the sap green with a little bit of the burnt sienna that I had right here, and I mixed it with the sap green. So all I was is I'm taking my index finger like so, and I'm just pulling back a little bit like this. Okay. So you can get started on that part. This up into here, this over here, down across, and the grass.
Just unplug my charger and go put it back in when you're done.
Now I'm going to blow dry this with the hair dryer for a moment, so I won't be able to hear you.
Well, no, for pictures. This is what your microphone's coming from,
That's weird.
your mic. I mean, you can hear them in the mic.
Yeah.
So we're not using the mic.
Okay. Any questions at all?
My painting is drying too fast. I got a lot of brush marks.
Your painting is starting to what?
It
Dry.
dries too fast.
You might have a dry house because the humidity in the house
Yeah.
will affect that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I've painted outside when it was very humid out. It took over an hour to dry. So it's a matter of finding the right speed. I hate to say that because that's kind of an unknown. Finding the right speed in which you have to paint the washes on. But the washes get smaller and smaller as we proceed through the painting. So it should be a little bit easier. But if you're having problems, take the toothbrush with a little bit of water to make it move a little bit. And that way you're not touching the paper and you won't be lifting any of the paint there. Because the more we touch the paper,
Right.
the more you're lifting pigment. I have an iPhone here, but no
That's
picture.
you.
Oh, that's me. Okay, never mind.
That's so you can hear them.
We should have, yeah, 8 here. That's right.
I hope it's recording the sound.
Oh,
That's two.
Take a picture.
I'm going to take a picture here so that you can see it. Hopefully it's a decent one.
Nope. You cut it off.
All right, I'll stand up and do it.
So Dale, right now, are you only teaching in Chicago, palette and chisel, or are you teaching elsewhere? Or you're you're in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm in northern Wisconsin, so the only place I'm teaching Zoom classes is through the palette and chisel, but I have workshops and classes way up here now.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of adjustment of our life at this point. I gotta take another picture, hang on. There we go. Which was a big move for us, but it was time to do it.
Fulfilling a dream. He did the same thing on the first one.
I figure since I hit 30 years old, I needed to move. Sydney, don't laugh.
Can turn 30 over and over again.
Okay, 32 and a half times. Yeah, 2.5 times.
Well, at least you moved close to a fresh body of water in case you run out of water, drinking water.
That's true.
Plus, we've got a well water and it's really good water.
Yeah, it usually is from way up there.
Unfortunately, if the electricity went out, then you can't pump it up.
Oh, well, gee, I happen to have a standby generator I'm looking to sell that runs on propane.
Well, we've got propane to heat the house, so all we
Maybe
do is
we
have to get a wood burning stove at this point.
Maybe we should work out a deal for a year's worth of lessons for my propane generator.
Not a bad idea. What kind of
It,
generator? What kind of generator is it?
it's a Generac,
Oh, really?
yeah, but like I said, it's got a propane tank and
Yeah.
and it's big enough to. Did it so it was big enough to run like the sump pump, the furnace, and maybe one refrigerator.
That's about all we need. Enough to
Yeah.
run the well and the furnace. and the
Yeah, so for
refrigerator.
you, it would be the well, which would be the critical thing.
Yeah,
And
and the heat
yeah,
and the refrigerator.
And Marilee's computer.
yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to talk about that offline.
Yeah.
Because it
Okay.
fit in the back of my SUV. That's how I got it home from, so I'm sure it would fit in the back of your big truck.
Oh, we have a Jeep.
We have a Jeep.
Yeah, but it's a big boxy Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
It's
it's
a
the one
boy.
I remember from Palos Heights or
Right,
wherever.
exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
boy Jeep.
It's a boy Jeep, right? Not a girl Jeep.
No. Okay, is anybody ready to show me?
Oh, I am, if you,
All right,
Wanna
let's see what
take a
you got,
look?
Diana. Okay,
I tried to
Um,
lighten my brown spot a little.
you hold it up a little bit more, Diana. There we go. You could drag in some of this other color into the house.
Drag in, what do you mean, some other color?
Drag a little bit more of the yellow orange into the house here, because
Okay.
we have overlapping a lot of things in here.
Okay.
Because I haven't overlapped on this side here, because I want the house kind of hidden, but not as hidden as it is in the photograph.
Okay.
Okay, Rachel. do you have
ready.
any- Who's ready? I'm sorry. I'll
Me.
go to Rachel. Rachel first. Go ahead, Rachel. Okay. All right, very good. The only thing I'm going to comment on, Rachel, it's a minor thing, is your blue tape will throw
Yeah.
your color off.
Oh,
Believe-
okay.
Believe it or not. That's why I always use regular masking tape, because it is a neutral. And when you have the blue out here or a green frog tape or whatever colors that they use, it does throw off your color idea that's going to go on in here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, Sydney. Okay, good. It's coming along well. All right,
Thank
let's go to Natalie.
Okay. Let it size away. Can you see it?
Yes. All right,
Okay.
pretty good. For the first time around, not bad. You should have seen my first time around. It was an ugly abstract, but that's all right. You're doing fine.
Okay, it's all learning.
Everything that we do is always learning.
Mhm.
Did I see yours, Julie? I'm sorry.
And you get to use the back side of the paper if you don't like it.
Yeah, on some papers it will work well. Okay, that's good, Julie. You could be, this next time around in here, Julie, try to be a little bit more intense with the color. Really pile it on if I'm gonna use a sentence to intensify a little bit more. really be bold up here. Okay, Carolyn. Okay, good. Nice and tense. Good. I'm going to have you watch this light spot that's right in here above the left-hand side of the porch here, right in this area. We're going to see if you can cover that up after the next wash. And Denise, since I see you thinking there, hold it down a little bit so I can see the bottom of it. There we go. Okay, good. Very nice.
No,
And
no comment?
no, you're fine so far.
Okay.
And you haven't painted since the last time I saw you?
Correct.
Well,
No colors anyway.
well, you got retention rate, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. And I just remember like the less specific, the better.
At the beginning, yes.
Beginning, yeah. Start out loose.
That painting that we did, the last lesson that you were in on,
Yeah.
it was in Europe with the waterway.
Oh, I love that one.
Did you give that to your,
Yeah, my
to
dad,
somebody?
they got it framed.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, I do. It's
Good.
really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Good. Janet, I left you for last. All right, that's fine. You need to come in and kind of invade the house on the left-hand side with that color. Try to dry brush it into the house. In other words, you want to get, because I'm going to be a little bit more forceful, but the left-hand side of the house with the porch and so forth, try to invade that side of the house with the branches. Okay, we're ready to start again. And what I want to do is first define a couple of things here before I go any further. I lost a little bit of the porch, not too much, but I want to I'm going to lift with this brush here. And I wet the brush and I pull all the water out of it. And I want to define the roof of the house or the porch just a little bit more. And it's simply lifting.
We lost you.
You're
Oh.
back.
Oh, okay, you're back.
Okay, good. We don't want any more loss today. So I'm defining the house just a little bit more, straightening up a few edges. I'm going to pull the chimney out here.
Are you doing that with a dry brush or
Yes,
just brush block?
Well, I'm taking my 1-inch flat and I ripped it out and I pulled all the water out of it so that it doesn't have a lot of moisture, and I'm lifting with the brush to clean up a few edges. And sometimes when I use all real hair brushes, and sometimes if you buy a synthetic hair, which I'm not a big fan of, but synthetic hair brushes will lift quite nicely. Okay, let's bring this back to the side here. And I am going to start again. I'm going to take my number, whatever, rosemary, 1/2 inch, what they call, this is a pointed oval. This is from Rosemary. And I'm going to start working up around the house in here and then go up. So I'm going to be very careful. I slow my process down quite a bit when I get to this phase, because the first part is very fast. The middle of the painting, you slow it down. And the end of the painting, you're at a crawl. So I'm going to crawl around a little bit. I'm going to take the yellow and the sap green and a little bit of the ultramarine blue and a touch of the burnt sienna to slightly gray this. And I'm going to go right into here and I'm going to start to I need a little bit more blue. It's not quite dark enough here, and a little bit more of the brown. When I'm doing this, many times I'll put color down and I'll start cross mixing right here on the palette itself. But I want to get this a little bit darker so there's a tad more contrast. And again, I'm dry brushing this in very carefully. I'm not trying to rush anything. I'm going to bring it right up on into here. Again, not covering everything.
Is that
Question.
ultramarine blue and sap green?
Sap green and a little bit of burnt sienna. And I also used the yellow medium at the very beginning, but I didn't add any more after that. So I'm
How do you
going in
avoid-
and
Oh, sorry.
sap green, yellow medium, and the ultramarine blue with a little bit of the burnt sienna. So what I'm doing,
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. How do you avoid overwetting your brush when you're mixing the colors to dry brush onto the page?
okay, I don't have a lot of water on my brush. As you can see here, it's not running down the palette. So there's very little water. Very little water. So right now I'm going in and looking at the different values in here. And at the same time, I'm being very careful the patterns of color, and I'm going to spray a little bit of water so that they kind of soften up a little bit, because when you're dry brushing, it can be, you end up with too many edges that are sharp. And we try to keep our edges as soft as we can for as long as we can. So I'm going to bring that up over in here. I'm going to bring it up in here. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this and a little bit more burnt sienna. And I want to come down into this area here. And I'm going to dry brush this up into here. And I'm going to come right down into the bottom of the painting. And what it looks like up close is that it's starting to form different values within the tree without worrying about where the tree trunk is at. I'm going to use a little bit more water because it's not moving quite quick enough. And I want to tone down some of this lighter things that's off to the left-hand side. And I want to come in underneath here. So I'm making this a little bit darker over here. And I'm going to come down in here. I'm going to make this a little bit darker at the bottom because this receives less light. And then I'm going to take the toothbrush with a lot of water, taking the same color, and I'm going to kind of spritz it up in here. I'm going to cover up that white spot that's way up there. And I'm going to leave that side alone. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to really give it a lot of power right here in the middle, down towards the house first. So I'm taking the yellow light, or medium, I'm sorry, and the brown matter. And I'm going to take just a little bit of water. And I'm going to start by putting in some of these other colors. And while this is still wet over here, I can meld in other colors within here. So as I do this, you can see in this area here, it's starting to show a little bit of variance within that area. And I'm going to drop these colors in very carefully. And then I'm going to go right down to the house. And I'm going to be very powerful up against the house with a dry brush, but I'm going to use a smaller brush in this case. And I want this pretty powerful up against the house. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the brown matter with no water on the brush. And I'm going to dry brush in these leaves that are coming down that are kind of overlapping the house. And again, I'm slowing the process down quite a bit. like so. And then I'm going to come right up into the top up here. And I'm going to hit this with a lot of yellow orange. So I add a lot more yellow medium to this. And I'm going to bring it right up into here. There's a lot of white space up in here that I need to diminish. And I'm going to take the pure yellow with the toothbrush. And I'm going to hit it in certain areas. Then I'm going to go back to the big brush with the same color. And while we still got this wet, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue-green, and I'm going to put in a few key darks back in here, and they will dissipate. Soften it with my finger a little bit. And this will start to make the house pop out just that much more. And then I'm going to come up on the other side with cross-mixing these two color combinations. And I'm going to come right up into here and dry brush this into here so that you've got a lot of color moving around in here. But once I put the trees in, it will make all the difference in the world. And then I'm going to take the color of what I just did here with a lot of water in it, this color with a little bit more yellow, and I want to tone the house just a little bit more because it's too light for the rest of the composition. Take a little bit of blue and I'm going to run it right down that side there. I'm going to run it over here a little bit. And while this is wet right here, I want to put in a few light trees. So I'm using my fingernails. So while it's wet, you can get some of these things in like this. So with the fingernail, you're seeing the scratches of the lighter trees or the birch trees. Now, I wanted a few over here, but I waited to show you a different way of doing it. I'm going to take my brush just with, very quickly with water on it, and I'm going to put in a little bit too much water. And you can pull out very quickly on that side. So I know it looks like a lot, but I started making this darker here with the sap green, the ultramarine blue, a little bit of the burnt sienna, went up and started to create a little bit more light up in here with the yellow, orange, and red orange. And then I brought it a little bit across. I worked some of the darks in here, and then I worked down in here. I toned the house down a little bit more, added some ultramarine blue in the shadow side, and then I darkened this up a little bit. So that's where I'm going to leave it at this point. We'll show you what we do next on it after we start up again. One thing I wanted to address. Is I wanted this tone down in here to break this up just a little bit more.
I think that's so you can see yourself big.
Okay. Are there any questions before you get started? just still you're paying attention to the large mass areas. You're not doing a whole lot of detail. Because if you do too much detail up in the trees, it's going to look hard edged and it's going to come back out at you when you want the house as the focal point. You'll do some more work around the trees around the house, but not up in the upper left and right hand corners. I'm going to take a quick picture of it, so I will be blocking your view a little bit. So hang on. I'm going to go get some new water. I'll be right back. Okay. Anybody have any questions at all?
What colors did you put on the house?
I put a little bit of the yellow with a touch of the green. As I
Okay.
just I crisscrossed it. Let me hold it up closer. I crisscrossed through here. And I left originally some of the lighter lights that I originally put down. And then right over here, I put down a real light ultramarine blue. And
Okay.
I carried that over into here so that it doesn't become isolated.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to dry this again so that we're ready to go when we're. Hopefully next week we won't have any problems. Now that we're used to what we have to do. Anybody ready to show me or have any questions? Is your cat painting with you, Denise?
I think she made him get out before you got connected.
Well, the cat's back with the tail waving in her face.
Oh, mine's asleep on the floor.
Our corgi is probably asleep on the back of the couch looking out for deer.
Our next door neighbor has 20 bags of corn. And he's had bucks back there, of course, younger bucks. I forget how many points was one of them.
6.
So he's 6 years old, right?
Yep.
We haven't had any big bucks, but we've had little spike fawn from this year.
Yeah. Well, it's the beginning of the season, so you got the bucks following the does around.
Doing the dozy do.
Yeah.
He's still staying with his mom and sister.
Yeah, there's 2 fawns that are following them around too, so but they're lacking the spots at this time.
And then
Okay,
we saw
Dale, it's Diana. Do you want to take a
Yeah.
look? 'Cause I'm going to have
Yes.
to duck out in a few minutes.
Okay.
Let me get my iPad up here.
Okay. The side of the house right over on the right-hand side,
Yep.
see if you can soften it a little bit. This is where I put the ultramarine blue very lightly over there. and allowed things to seep in a little bit. So you don't want a sharp edge
Right.
on the side of the house.
Okay.
Rest of it looks pretty good.
Okay.
At this
For a
point
be-
of, at
a
this point
beginner,
of the
right?
paint. Yes. Right-hand side. At this point of the painting, you allow the painting to tell you what it needs to do or what you can do with it. So I don't look at the photograph too much at this point. I will later on, but at this particular point, I'll allow the painting to tell me what it needs. So I'm going to be working up in here, down in here, but the first thing I'm going to start is on the house. So I have a definition of that with the darks that are in the windows and a few things that are minor detail. But there's other things that I need to look at. So while you're painting, I'm looking at what needs to be done next. I very seldom use the hairdryer in my studio, by the way. I always sit and watch the paint dry and decide what I need to do.
Dale, it's Janet. Can I get feedback and guidance? Because I'm getting lost.
No, you're fine. You could, when we go back into the foreground, Janet,
Yeah.
try to, where I'm going to have you try to use a big brush stroke of this light color going across a little bit, because you have a lot of too many little things going on down here, which is going to be distracting from this up here.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Denise, are you ready to show me?
I am. I think I might have too many distractions, like a big cat in my face. But
Yeah, besides the cat. No, not bad. I like what's going on in there because I'm going to be pulling out a few more lights in here, but you can spritz some yellow, straight yellow up in here a little bit.
up in the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and a little bit up in here, because you can see it was wet when I put it on over here.
Yeah,
That it has kind of a flow to it.
yeah.
That's something that is nice in watercolor, to allow the watercolor to flow and let it do what it does best. I hear them talking. How are you doing, Carolyn?
Here, I'll show you.
All right. You got the tree right here a little bit too dark, but I'm not concerned about it.
In the middle, you're saying? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you put a new tree there, which is fine. I'm gonna have you put a trunk underneath it so it holds that mass up. Other than that, I'd like to see you tint your house just a little bit more and take a damp brush on the right-hand side of the house and kind of soften that edge by going back and forth a little bit.
Okay. A damp brush, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just a damp, clean brush.
Okay.
Sydney, how are you doing?
Almost ready,
You want me to go to somebody else?
please.
Okay. Natalie,
Okay, can you see it?
yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, not bad at all for the first time around. As I said, the learning curve on watercolor is quite a big curve.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing relatively well. You're holding the form well, you're making the watercolor move on the paper, and everything you do at this point is a bit of an experiment.
That I'm learning. I can give you my own critique. I need to work with brush strokes. I think I need some void space in there. I've got everything too colored. And texture a little bit.
Yeah, handling the brush on, let's say you're taking this brush here, and by dragging it on the side like this, and without a lot of moisture, you can get a nice dry brush and textured effect. And again, I'm working I'm working on an indigo paper, which is a handmade paper from India, and it is highly textured, more so than the cold press of the arches or even the rough of the arches. This has a lot more texture to it, which makes it a little bit more interesting for landscapes. But I do use a variety of things, papers and stuff for different subject matters. I'll use hot press occasionally when something has to be drawn extremely accurate because it's very smooth and slick. But you're doing fine.
Okay. Not bothered. I consider it fun.
Well, yeah, you have to have a little bit of fun with it. You have to breathe and smile while you paint, otherwise you'll pass out. Julie, what do you have? Okay, good. Not bad at all. You're getting in the swing of things again, Julie. It takes time. Rachel. Okay, pretty good. Rachel, have you had watercolor lessons before?
No, this is my first time too.
Oh, say that again, please.
This is my first time also.
Really?
Yep.
You're doing remarkably well too.
Thank you.
I'm impressed with both of the newcomers. And it's something that is hard to do. When I used to teach in my studio in my home down in Indiana, I had a number of new students. And in a classroom, I was talking to Sydney last night on the phone, that the things that you learn from the lectures, demonstrations from the instructor is part of it. The other part is seeing what other students do and picking up what they do, because there is a certain learning curve in that part too. So can you see other students work on this? I forget whether you do or not.
Yeah, they can see.
Mhm.
Okay, but take a look at how they use the color, what you like about it, because you're always learning a number of different things from other students also. But you're doing well.
Thank you.
How do I?
Diana, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. How do I see other people's work? Because I'm only seeing yours.
It's
Really?
up in the, what are you looking at? On an iPad, a laptop?
iPad.
Okay, go the top
Left.
right-hand corner and see gallery or view.
Yeah,
Mine's on my left side
Okay.
on the iPad.
All right, on your left side, do you see it says view and little checks, little boxes?
Ah, got it. Okay.
And
Gallery.
that'll open up. You can see everybody.
Okay. Hi.
There you go.
And then there's a little, there's the box, and then there's two lines in the middle and one line on the left. On the left collapses it, so you can see
Okay.
Dale again.
Okay.
Okay, Diana, do you have anything to show me before you leave?
Sure. Hold on a sec. Okay.
Okay, good. I would like to see you wash a little bit more light color across the building. I wonder if you can see this well enough if I hold it up.
So are
I
you saying my
I
building?
have a number of light washes across the building, kind of in a very abstract way.
And I have a whole bunch of washes. I have a green, I have a yellow.
Hold it up closer to the camera for so I can see it then. I still think you need to add more there.
Okay.
And again, you added the windows in before the guy came with the windows.
I know, but I wanted to see what it looked like.
Okay. All right. Did I miss anybody or anybody else? has
Me.
something to film? Okay,
Me.
Sydney, please. Okay. Hold it up a little bit higher. I can't see the bottom. There we go. All right. That darkness that's underneath that the foundation is showing.
Yeah.
Take a wet brush, add some water to it, take a paper towel and pull up some of it.
Okay.
It's a little bit too dark.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thanks.
So far, so good. All right, I'm going to go into the windows, the porch, and some of the delineation of of the building before I expand out again, because we need to address that. I'm going to take the green here, and I'm going to start with the eaves of the house, the overhang. And I'm going to take the green and a little bit of the yellow and a touch of the ultramarine blue. And I mean, I'm just barely getting it. Sometimes I'll put the blue on the palette over here and add a little bit at a time, because we have influences from the outside here on a light subject matter. I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna also. I want it this grayed down because it is part of the shadow. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that underneath the eaves here. Just a little bit here and there, just to start to define the overhang of the house, and a little bit on the porch here. And I'm being very casual about it. I'm not trying to be super exact. I'm going around any part of the leaves that overhang the house. Then I'm going to come down the other side, like so. And it's different value, slight bit, so that we don't have consistently the same value. And then we have the little roof back here that sticks out, like on a Cape Cod. And I'm going to tone that down, that whole roof back there. I know it's light in the photograph, but I don't want that sticking out so much. So I'm going to tone that down with a little bit of blue, a little bit more blue here. And then we have the chimney that's up on top here. I'm going to take some of the burnt sienna and some of the little bit of the yellow mixed in with the blue. I know there's not a chimney on the house, but I added a chimney. And I'm just going to, again, very casually put that in. I just thought it added a little something. We're going to do something with that later on. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cast shadow underneath the building there. And now we're going to go into the windows a little bit. So I'm going to take the ultramarine blue and a little bit of the green. We're trying to keep everything in harmonizing colors. So if I took the blue and the I'll show you the brown matter. You can see right here's the blue, and I took the brown matter. You're going to get a violet color. And you kind of have to be careful about going outside the realm of the colors that you've been using already. So we're trying to keep it within this color variation here. So we're not going to go in that direction. So I'm going to make it a blue-green, add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it to slightly gray it. And so that this will color harmonize with the rest of it, or unify with the rest of it. So I'm going to take very carefully, I'm going to start tinting in the windows, and the bottom of it, I'm going to be a little bit darker. And again, I'm not being super exact with this for the fact that it wouldn't match the rest of the painting. I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow, and I'm going to put it in the bottom right there so that we're seeing kind of a different casual look of this, but this will go with the rest of the painting. We got another window there. And I'm going to very carefully put in some side windows over here. You can do that or you don't have to. I'm also going to accentuate the darker part of the overhang there, just to give this a little bit more look to it. Now I'm going to take, while this is still wet, a little bit more ultramarine blue with the green, and I'm going to add it in on this top window. And then we have these, I put in little vents at the top up here, just for extra added excitement, if you want to call it that. Now this is a lot of little, what I call detail work, but I am going to go in and I'm going to create some darker darks on the porch here. There's some openings here and there. I'm going to suggest it without going into crazy little detail. And we have some stairs right here. Again, not concerned about too much. I'm going to take some of that dark and I'm going to go up against the house here and there, just to push that out a little bit more. A few small brush strokes. I'm going to pull that up so you can see that. I don't want to make a large mass. I want to create a couple of smaller masses. It's important that your application of the paint, your brush strokes and so forth, becomes smaller and smaller at this point, because we're working from large to small. And if we go too far with big brush strokes, we're going to end up with a problem. Now I'm going to add a few little accents down in this area here, along with pushing that dark up against the grass. So it's a lot of little things that I'm going to add a little bit of brown to it over here with the burnt sienna. But I want to push and create a little bit of variety of texture and a little bit of rhythm in here. So it doesn't look the same. It's not even, it's not flat. And I'm going to come over here again. I'm going to add a little bit more, some darks over here around these light trees. And that dark will push that light out.
Dale, I'm going to cut out.
Okay. Do you need
See
to
ya.
show me anything before you leave?
If you want to look real quick here.
Yes.
Wait, let me get it. My damn iPad.
All right. You're getting there.
Okay. So
Good.
I'll see what you send and we'll go from there.
All right. Have a
All
good
right.
week or a good
Thanks.
weekend.
Uh-huh.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So I'm going to add a little bit of an accent underneath the overhang of the house on the foundation. There's a root cellar window here, or a basement window. I've moved things around. If I've added these other windows in over here, and I added one here, I added one here. And it helps kind of give it a little bit more character. So I'm adding things that I feel are needed to a great extent. And it's always better to have odd numbers than even numbers. So I have 3 windows here. I have 5 over here. I'm going to tone this down a little bit because I don't want the porch popping out. I want that kind of hidden shadow. So I add a little bit of yellow green on that. Now I'm going to go into the foreground with the same color mixed in with a little bit of more blue. And I want to tone this part down over here, a little bit more blue, because we don't want it the same from here to here, even though it's not right now. This is lighter. I want to add a little bit more character over here. And once we get to a certain point, a lot of it's a lot of little piddly stuff. And I'm going to do a little bit more to the house. But people always ask, when do you know whether your painting's done? When I was a student, I had no clue, except when the instructor came along and tapped me on the shoulder. He said, stop, don't touch it, don't move. It's something that you look back and you always have to stand up and stand about 6 feet away from your painting, decide what you need to do, what you don't need to do. Pick out 1 or 2 things and then go back into it. Do not try to handle anything large at the end of a painting, because that's where you'll lose it. And that's where I have a landfill in my name someplace. But I'm being very careful about how much I'm adding to little small brush strokes, nothing major. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a little bit more character to the house at this point. I'm going to take the yellow and a little bit of the brown matter. And I'm going to take it and gray it slightly a little bit with what's next to it, with the brown. And I want to show, and I'm going to make it much lighter, a little bit of character into the house with some clapboards that are going to show. So I'm being very careful on how much I'm going to put in, how much I'm going to show. And it's just small brush strokes. And if I put in too much, I can always pull it up or diminish it a little bit with a damp brush. But I needed just a little bit more character with the house. Now, I'm going to take and I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. I'm going to tone this spot down in here. I will go back and look at the windows again, but I'm going to leave that dry. And I'm going to go up into the trees a little bit with the burnt sienna and the green that I had over here. I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. And I'm going to start by adding some of these more distinct darks that are up here. Just a few little bit things first around the house. Again, not worrying about the tree trunks just yet. I will get to that. But it's just to get down some of these things that will help the house pop from the background just a little bit more. So, because darks will recede and lights will come forward. And I'm going to dry brush in a little bit larger area here. And I'm moving around the painting a little bit here, a little bit there. I'm not trying to stay in one place too long, because that can be a detriment to getting one place finished before the other. I'm adding a little bit of green there, yellow green. Adding a little bit of blue out here to pull this color down into here, some accents of color. Bless you.
Thank you.
And I think what I might do at this point is I'm going to take the spray gun here, or what I call a spray gun to spray, and I'm going to spritz. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm going to spritz just a little bit in here, and I'm being very careful. I'm just barely pressing the squeeze button on it, and I let it sit there just a little bit.
Oh,
Bless you. And I'm going to push down and pull up and twist the paper towel. And you'll see some of the texture come forward. Now, what I don't like is this bubbly light going on up there, and I'm going to tone that down very quickly. And I'm going to spray this once again, especially in this area right here, right around the house, and a little bit in here. And if you just leave it there for 10, 15 seconds and decide what you want to do with it. I still have a tree right here that was in the photograph. And at this point, I'm deciding, do I need it or don't I need it? I might put a few stems up here of the trunks, but I'm not going to overdo it because I think it will cover the house too much. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. I just got that from my wife. So you can see if I hold this up close, the texture that's coming through. Now, I'm going to start adding the trees in, the trunks. And where I put them, I'm going to start off with the smaller ones. Where I put them will be according to what I need in here. So I'm going to take the ultramarine blue and the sap green again, and a lot of the burnt sienna, because these tree trunks are fairly dark in the shadow. And I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. And I'm going to start with a couple of them that are smaller near the house. Bless you, whoever that was. And I'm going to weave it in and out of, if you can see, I'm weaving it in and out of the leaves there. So I'm not going straight up showing the whole trunk. You don't really want to do that. Now, we had the sun coming in like right here, and I have to also at the same time attach a cast shadow to the ground and then going up the house here a little bit. So we have this a little bit more in shadow. And I go back and I'm adding more of this. Now I'm going to add a lot of blue to it. I'm going to start another tree off on the other side here. I have a tree that's up against the house here. I'm going to bring it down to the little bit in the foreground out in front of the house. And I'm going to allow it to go up into the tree here, into the leaves. I'm going to, again, weave it in and out of the foliage. And I'm going to run it right across the small window there, or so forth. And add a little bit of an accent there. And I'm going to add another tree in right behind it, just a soft one, not as pronounced as the one in the foreground. And allow this to run up and out so that this will then hold up that mass. So I'm putting some other trees in the background here that pop up here and there. So if you can see that, they're not coming up from the front, they're coming up from behind some of the other masses that are in here.
Dale, what brush are you using for that?
I'm using my number 3 Winsor Newton. The only smaller brush I have than that is I have a rigger. I don't know if you can see that.
Right here. Put it in front of the house.
Yeah, right in front of the house. It's very long and narrow, and I can handle finer branches with that if needed. But that's my smallest brush. I have a collection of brushes that is ridiculous, but those are things that I've picked up over the years that I use occasionally. And I'm also making sure that the trees are all different sizes, that they are broken up in different ways. And I'm looking at how they're looking here before I travel across back to here. A couple little saplings in here. What I've just decided at this point is I'm going to use the rigger, and I'm going to take something a little bit lighter, but the same, more water with the same paint. And I'm going to put a kind of a bush here, or a sapling out in front of the house, just very lightly. Okay. Then I'm going to travel across to the other side. And I'm going to add a little bit more blue paint to it, a little bit more of the burnt sienna. And I am going to put some emphasis on this tree right here. This has got to come down in front of the house. Like so. And I'm going to have a tree coming out from back of the house because this is a fully wooded lot. I was driving uphill on Route 45 and I had to let the car go backwards and stop and take a picture. But I want this to have a full forest, more so than what even the property had. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put another tree right in here. You probably might not be able to see it. I'm going to use a lot of blue in this particular case. But I'm putting the trees where I feel that they're needed. I'm going to bring that bottom of the trunk out just a little bit so you can see where it starts down here. like I say, the colors were magnificent this year, the best I've seen in a number of years. And it stayed around a long time because we didn't have any storms blowing them down. Now, I did this painting once in a workshop last week, and I'm going to take that painting on Facebook Live this Saturday and show people how I would finish it. A little bit different than what I've got here, but I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna, well, I'm using the brown oxide, and I'm going to put that down in here a little bit as fallen leaves. And that will bring some of this color down into here. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that point. And we still have about 45 minutes to go because we lost a half hour at the beginning.
They had a whole lot of trouble getting started, so they're going to go to 1:30. But I don't know that I'll stay. Other people are leaving.
Yeah, you can stay.
I'll wait and see.
Yeah. I'm taking off the tape on the sides here because I won't be painting up near the sides, so you can see the relationship of the white paper to what used to be a white house.